Okay, we're going to reconvene in open session. I would remind everybody to, if you need to make a comment, when you make a comment, turn your microphone on and touchpad in order to be picked up by the audio in the hall. So we will take up item 5 on the agenda, public comment period. We don't have anybody signed up for that today. So we will go then to item 6, presentation, discussion, and the update report by the Director of Electric Utilities or his designee regarding customer service, business center practices, procedures, and policies, billing procedures, and LP&L staffing and performance. Mr. McCullough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, board members, city council members. I just want to call your attention to a few things in the report, and we'll be happy to try to answer any questions you might have on the rest of it. But on page 17 of the report, we have our business office recap, which has some neat little graphs there and charts. And so the call center activity is the second graph in the upper left there. You can see we've added a trend line there, and you can see the call center activity is being reduced. We think that's a function of trying to incorporate more opportunities for folks to do business with us via the web. In addition, the average wait time continued to be under a minute with a reading of 29 seconds, which was down 6 seconds in the prior month. So that's a good trend to have as well. And then we have the distribution recap, which is the commercial customers that are being added. This list that we keep up from month to month. Three customers were added this month, and that's on page 20. You can see the three customers there. One 25,000 square foot auto dealership that's been added to the list now, and another Chick-fil-A, so another dining opportunity for you. Lower on that same page, I just want to point out that our Oliver substation upgrade project has completed the construction phase and is now being commissioned. So that was a fairly major undertaking for our substation department. An important project to this sort of the southern customers in our district, and so glad that was progressing. On the next page, we've added a outage cause graph. I thought this was a pretty good graph. It shows the incidence of outage and what the causes were. In May, you can see that weather was a major cause of outage. We had some pretty startling weather, as y'all remember. So lightning, wind, weather-related damage caused outages there. And then animals was another factor. That's the first column there. And then probably the second highest in May, at least, was component. Now that's equipment failure, transformer failure, lines down, transformer failure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I thought you might be interested in that. And then on page 23, you can see our base daily system load. That's a graph that shows the minimum and the maximum load, and the temperature at the bottom there, so you can kind of correlate temperature to load. So you can see the max load in May was about 460, and min load was about 221. In June, I looked back last year, we would expect loads to be max out around 500, and minimums will creep up to around 250. And then in July, we'll go to the higher end and go up to 550, sometimes higher if we have a really hot spell. And then the minimum load will be about 280. That's generally 280 is about the lowest our load will go in the summertime. And then August, the maximum load will creep up to about 580. So that's what you can expect going forward. And of course, with this little hot spell we've had here, our generating units have been running quite a bit, and so the market prices have crept up. We've been in the money and been running quite a bit. So keeping our guys busy in the production department. That's all I had, unless there's any questions.
Appreciate the info on the outages. I think that's very interesting information. Good to know all the way around. Any other comments or questions, Mr. McCullough? Thank you, Mr. McCullough. Appreciate it. Let's go then to item 7, presentation and discussion of financial and capital statements, financing options, audits, and financial policies of Lubbock Power and Light for relating to debt issuance issues, reserve account funding, cost allocation, revenue expense projections for Lubbock Power and Light. Mr. Burcham.
Good afternoon. The slides today that I have before you, first I'll start off with a slide that I present on a monthly basis related to what an average residential customer is paying for their electricity. The average customer is defined as the customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours per month. And so you can see for the months of February through May, that amount was $89.21. That's before tax. We have implemented summer rates, and the only change there between the non-summer and summer rates is related to the service availability and energy charges. This year, the pass-through of the purchase power is the same when y'all lowered that rate in effective February the 1st. Our intention was to keep that rate at that level through the end of the summer season. So that eliminated one of the increases that we've seen in the past in the summer, when not only does the service availability and energy rate go up, but also the pass-through rate goes up. That's not happening this year. So we're going from $89.21 to $100.40 for the average customer. If you want to compare this to last summer, the same time period, customers were paying $110.41. So we have a $10 decrease from what the average customer paid last year and what they're paying this year. The differences between the 2 years, the service availability and energy charges are up 5.75%, which accounts for $2.37 increase. The decrease on the pass-through of our purchase power is about $12, so net a $10 decrease between the 2 years. So that's a 9% decline from the prior year. The pass-through piece being the big drop of about 18% drop in that number. So, but overall 9% lower cost for our customers this summer compared to last summer. Back to the rate itself, and we have comparable information through April, and of course we were at $89 for the average customer, and you can see the history, how that's moved over time. Overlay SPS or Xcel Energy, so the customers in Amarillo are paying $98.11 compared to LP&L. And over the course of a 3-year period, an Xcel customer has paid $230 more than an LP&L customer. If you overlay the Texas average, average customer in April was paying $101 for the same amount of electricity, and over a 3-year period, LP&L customers paid $277 less than the Texas average customer. So all very positive information related to how our customers are paying some of the lowest rates in the state. Another slide that I present to you each month is our pass-through of our purchase power. And as you all know, we have been in an over-collected status over the last number of months. And in February was when the board voted to reduce that pass-through rate. And as you can see, since February, we've had a decline in that over collection. So we have been under collecting the last several months because of that change. We are on track with where we thought we would be through the end of May. We had projected originally that we would be over collected about $6 million, and we were $6.2 million over collected. So we're right on track with what we had projected. Through the summer months, with the rate that's in place right now, we expect to under collect $6 million. So by the end of the summer season, our revenues for purchase power should equal the expenses for purchase power to date. So that is the intent of the pass-through, is to get down to that black line going across there, and we've been on either side of it. But again, this is what has managed the volatility in rates for our customers and kept that from being what we have historically seen. All right, I'll quickly go through some items on the balance sheet and income statement. On page 24 of your backup is the balance sheet. And just a couple of things I'll point out. Cash and investments. This is actually comparing where we were at the end of April through the end of the last fiscal year, September 30th of 2015. So cash is basically unchanged from that time period. Receivables are down about $13.3 million, which is a seasonal aspect of our balance sheet. This is what we always see in the summer. This will, or at least in the winter months, the receivables come down quite a bit, but we'll rise back up to that $29 million range as the summer months progress. Also, restricted investments in the non-current asset section of the balance sheet, you'll see is up about $3.6 million. We have issued bonds for this year. We issued about $8 million in bonds, and that settled in April. So we had an addition of new bond proceeds going into our investment portfolio by the end of April. We've also spent about $4 million out of those bond proceeds on capital projects. So the net of that is the increase of $3.6 million from year end. Capital assets are up a little bit. Our capital program, we're adding quite a bit of construction progress to the assets, so I'll talk a little bit more about that. On the liability side of the balance sheet, mainly I'll point out deferred revenues, that second line, $7.8 million. That is what we were over collected today, and you can see in September we were over collected 2.2, so that has grown $5.6 million over that time. Obviously, we have come down from a high. We've come down $1.6 million from where we were originally, but so that's what that is. Customer deposits is another area I'd like to point out. As you recall, you approved us being able to rebate customer deposits when customers meet a certain threshold, and we've been able to rebate about $2 million of deposits this year. So far, we've had an addition of deposits of about $700,000, so the net down about $1.3 million there. Another thing I'll point out, bonds payable on the long-term or the non-current liabilities is down $6.6 million. Like I mentioned a moment ago, we issued bonds that settled in April totaling about $8 million. But we also made debt payments totaling about $15 million. So net, we are down in our long-term bonds payable by the $6.6 million. Moving on to the income statement, you can see operating revenues are down about $10.9 million this year compared to, and now I'm comparing to April of last year, so April of 16 to April of 15. So we're down about $10.9 million from this time last year. If you look down the income statement, you'll see the purchase of fuel and power, which is also down over $10 million, and those are very highly correlated. So the reason our revenues are down is because that pass-through of that power is down significantly from prior year. We do have some increases on our operating expenses. I wanted to point out on the personal services, which include a lot of personnel costs, $1.5 million over where we were this time last year. One of the main reasons for that is it's still at this point in time, we've had one more pay period than we had at this point in the year last year. That makes up about half that difference. About $700,000 is related to an extra payroll. Next month, it'll even up, and so we'll have a little bit more of an apples-to-apples perspective on that. We also, as you recall, had quite a bit of overtime related with Winter Storm Goliath, which is about $280,000, which was not seen in the prior year budget or the prior actuals. And then I've mentioned this the last couple of meetings. We've also had some operating or some personnel expenses that have been hitting the operating statements that should have been hitting the capital, and we've been working over the last couple of months to itemize what that entry needs to be. So we'll be moving about almost $300,000 out of personal service line item into the capital account. So we'll see some improvements next month in this. Supplies and maintenance are also over this year. We've had a good bit of an increase in water costs, $200,000 about for water at our cook station. We've also had an increase in some legal fees related to our ERCOT integration procedures, and also some maintenance on our streetlights have been a little bit higher than what we've seen in the past, about an increase of about $140,000 over prior years. So that kind of gives you a flavor of some of the changes there. Overall net position is down $7.3 million compared to down $3.8 million last year. Even though that looks like a lot of difference, we're still not concerned with the year. There's some timing issues in there. There's some entries that we're going to be making to correct some of that. One thing I did mention too, there was also an entry on the supplies line item that will another about $300,000 that will be moving to the capital fund that was inappropriate, or not inappropriately, but shouldn't have been charged to the operating budget, should have been charged to capital. So we'll be moving that as well. We just didn't have it in time for the April financials.
In general, your depreciation is what length?
Well, it's a variety, depending, a lot of our, typically no more than about 30 years, though, on the long-term assets, and then there's all different flavors depending on what type of asset it is, but
in your capital, your CapEx as a percentage of depreciation, you study something, you watch that, it's like you might in the private sector, or is it just more based on projects as you fund?
Mostly based on projects as you fund. We don't really look at it like you might in the private sector. So. But and we have an increase this year. There's been some pretty significant projects that were closed, that were long-term projects that we finally got closed and are depreciating this year. So that's caused a little bit of an increase on depreciation for this year going forward.
And it's not unusual, in fact, it would be usual to have a year-to-date loss at this stage.
It is usual, and we've looked historically, where we're at 7.3 million right now. A couple years ago, this time we were over 9 million net loss, and then last year we were at like 2 million net loss. So it's really all about timing and dependent upon weather and different things like that. So this is not uncommon. We're not concerned. So we're seeing a big difference there. I don't want y'all to be concerned about that. We still anticipate a profitable year, and of course these hot summer days will be increasing the usage of electricity and help that bottom line too. We typically operate at a loss through the non-summer months, and the summer months are when we have the revenues come in that kind of cover the rest of the year. On the budget side, just very quickly on this, you can kind of see on those last two columns, I've compared where we are now to budget, and then you can see in the last column where we were at this point last year compared to budget. And so in all cases, we're very, very close. The only real difference is in off-system sales, and the real driver of that is we budgeted a larger number this year for off-system sales, both on the revenue and the expense side, which have not materialized like we'd expected. But this time last year we had about $1 million of off-system sale revenues compared to about $800,000. So it's, in the scheme of things, it's not off very much at this point in time. And we've been running those units like crazy as these temperatures have been hot, and as SPP has called on those units to run in the market. So we'll see some bigger numbers come in over time. And then the last slide on the financials is just an overview of the capital program. We have 48 open projects at this point in time with a value of about $75 million. We have expended through April about $30 million of that, and you can see the breakout between bonds and cash. So we have $36 million remaining to be spent on those 48 projects that are open. At the bottom, you can see the larger projects that we spent just during the month of April. And so this is a little bit of a change from what we've seen in the past. We've really had a lot of projects kick off and a lot of additional dollars be spent through that capital program. $4.4 million this year. The majority of that is on distribution projects. The biggest is the Milwaukee Auto Transformer at $1.6 million. Oliver Substation, which Mr. McCullough pointed out a few minutes ago, that was basically complete. A $1.3 million expense there. And you can kind of see the others throughout there of items that have been spent that make up that amount. And that basically covers the highlights of April, and if y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
And in our materials, on page 28, we have a cost center 7413, the overhead. As far as the proportion of that to the overall budget, Matt address that in just a second. I think probably the being within 72% of budget at this point, a lot of that has to do with the line.
Yes, it does, and a lot of it has to do with those entries that we're going to be making in the month of May, that we've overstated basically the expenses in the operating budget for the overhead line area, and also you'll see a little bit of an elevation in in distribution engineering. Both of those are where some of those entries were made that we'll be backing out and putting into the appropriate capital projects where those expenses belong. So we'll see that resolve itself a little bit with that entry, but also, yeah, they're going to be a little bit elevated due to the Goliath, like you mentioned, and some other activities that they've been pursuing. But for the most part, you'll notice all the other cost centers are at or below where we should be. 7 months into the year, that's about 58% through the year. So you'd expect, at least if you count each month as equal, which it doesn't always work out that way. If you're below about 58% in most categories, you're doing pretty good. And we're about 45% overall on our cost centers. Our fund level expenses are elevated, but that has to do with the fact that we pay debt service. And you'll see we basically have spent almost 100% of our debt service through April. So that kind of skews the percentage for the fund level expenses a little high, but overall in the total budget, we're about 49% of budget right now, which is in a good place at this point in time.
Any other comments, questions for Andrew?
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's look at the right page here. Item 8, discuss and take action on Lubbock Power and Light fiscal year 2016-2017 operating budget and capital program, and make appropriate recommendations to the City Council of the City of Lubbock pursuant to 2.03415A of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lubbock, Texas. Mr. Berger.
To be again. Before you today, you have a resolution to approve the budget and to recommend to the City Council that this budget be adopted as part of the official City of Lubbock budget as the summer goes on. Show you briefly a calendar of events. The last two meetings, I've made a pretty thorough presentation to the board on the budget and on the tariff that's before you. So on May 17th and on June 13th, Chad and I made these presentations. Today, obviously, is the resolution to recommend the budget and approve it and forward it on to the City Council. Then it gets into the City Council's hands, and so on, at least the current calendar of events is that on July 14th, the City will present the budget to the City Council. There will be a public hearing on August the 25th. There will be another public hearing on September the 1st, along with a first reading of the city's budget ordinance, and then the second reading of the budget ordinance, and then the resolution to approve our tariff would be on the September the 8th City Council agenda. So that's just assuming that there are no changes in these dates, but that is the calendar as I know it today. What I wanted to do is, I'm not going to go through the full in-depth presentation today, but I do want to go back through the highlights again. So I'll make it as brief as I can and also cover anything. And I'd like to open it up anytime for questions if you have them. I know y'all have had a chance to look over this budget over the last month and hear a couple of presentations, so I'm happy to answer any questions. Some of the significant items in this budget, though, the driver of this budget is the significant capital investment related to our transmission system. For the fiscal year of 16-17, we have about $71 million in our capital program. The bulk of that is in transmission. I've also highlighted customer information systems because even though it's on the scheme of things, it's small dollars. It'll be about $2.5 million out of that $71 million this year. It has a great impact on our customers. Another item of significance in the budget is basically the mothballing or the storage of the Cook steam units. As you recall, we have taken those units out of the unit contingent agreement with Xcel Energy, and so that has had an impact on revenues. So revenues are down as a result of that by about $600,000. But expenses are down about $2.3 million as a result of that also. So a significant improvement on our bottom line by that change, and that's incorporated in this budget. Use of general reserves. We are over policy limits, and we have been for some time. And the reason that we have those is to eliminate volatility in our rate increases. And so that's the amount of reserves we have over policy levels will allow us to implement these rate increases evenly rather than having volatile rate increases on a year-by-year basis. And so the intent will be to bring those reserves down to policy levels over the next several years, and that is included in the financial model. But this current year, we will use those reserves, which means we have $683,000 more of expense than we do in revenue in this budget, which will pull down those reserves somewhat. This budget also incorporates a base rate adjustment, 5.75%. This is the same amount that has been in the budget the last 2 years, and what we've been telling you for the last couple of years that we would anticipate going forward for the next several years. We have 2 more years after this that at this point in time it looks like it'll be 5.75% base rate adjustment. That's just on the base rate, and which is typically about 1/3 of the customer's bill is related to the base rate. So it's, and again, the monthly impact of that is about $2, and I'll show that again in a moment. The financial modeling, the forward look of our program includes the ERCOT integration. One thing that we've done to be conservative in this budget is to incorporate what would be a 1.5-year delay in the integration into ERCOT. And so we have built in added cost for that 18-month period for capacity charges and for the charges that would be required within the SPP market. But then also, so in December of 2020, in the budget, in the modeling, is when we have that coming on board. And that's also the year that we would start to see transmission cost of service revenues come in to start easing our rates and be able to see some rate relief in the future years. Another item that's in this budget is the FERC Uniform System Accounts. This year, we've been very busy transitioning our accounts, our general ledger, to the FERC Uniform System of Accounts, and that will allow us in the future to be able to put our transmission assets into the transmission cost of service matrix. And so we wanted to get that done as soon as we could, so we'll have a lot of experience with it before that time comes in, hopefully in 2019. All right, the focus of this budget has been consistent the last several years, and the reliability and capacity of the transmission system, of our production units, and our customer information systems is extremely important to us. It's extremely important now, and it's extremely important for us as we look forward to 2019 and beyond. And so what's included in this budget, as I mentioned a moment ago, a big driver of the budget is the transmission grid improvements. We do include 115 kV outer loop and a 69 kV inner loop. In this year's budget, we have about $24.4 million worth of new lines or rebuilds of existing lines. We've got $11.4 million for the design and engineering of about $104 million worth of transmission lines that will be built over the next several years. And we also have about $14 million in the capital program for substations. We also have included in this budget the upgrade and replacement of an aged customer information service infrastructure, our billing system. That's number one on our, at least from a customer service standpoint, to improve that system. It was purchased over 10 years ago, and it is an aged system, and it's an inflexible system, and it needs to be replaced. And what it will also allow us to do is to provide the infrastructure that we need for advanced meters. That is also part of the future phases of this project. It includes the billing system. And I did like to point out, though, this year will mostly be the design and engineering of that, or not the engineering, but the scoping of that project, the gathering of information for that project. And so that is a big component of that.
And you might mention to the city council members that are here that we'll be working with the other city departments to see what their needs are and make sure we're close.
Yeah, absolutely. We, obviously this impacts all of the utilities at the city, and so we'll be meeting with those departments to make sure that that what they want in the new system will work for them. I know water is going through a new rate design process right now, and so obviously that will have some impacts on what we do with this billing system. But it's very difficult to make changes in the current billing system. It's just an improvement that needs to be made, and it will kind of set us in place for the future for the advanced meter infrastructure and the meter data management systems and the communication networks that we need for all of that going forward.
So is that actually software you're buying, or are you buying it as like software as a service? Is it more cloud-based kind of stuff?
That is still that is what we'll be looking at. Is what will it be cloud-based? But it will be a software system that we purchase. It's not an in-house project. It'll be.
But you would be. It's not something you're going to pay for as you use. It will be an upfront kind of capital.
There will be a capital investment to that. Yeah, the billing system itself is about $6 million in today's dollars for a replacement of that. It's an expensive purchase, but it is.
Is that because we've got to we have to have it here to be able to? It seems to be like more and more that technology is moving towards less CapEx, less upfront investment, and just pay for it as you use it. That's kind of, I don't know,
And that's something we'll have to look at, and if there's some savings there that we can do, we're certainly going to do what's the cheapest option. It's at this point, all the research that we've done, we've kind of gotten some pricing for these types of issues, and that looks like what it would be if we do purchase it, but we'll have to look at that. And we have a good team. Dana Box is going to be leading up the team that's going to be looking at what will our future billing system look like and how will that be integrated into with our customer base and all of that. So we're still on the early edge of exactly what we're going to do, but to include, we know it will be a significant cost, and so this may be too conservative, but I think it's a place to begin. The third thing that is incorporated in this budget is that we have implemented about $2.2 million in cost savings. There have been some offsetting increases related to our future aspects of integrating into ERCOT and becoming a transmission owner-operator. But overall, our controllable expenses are down about $1.1 million from the prior year. So we're very proud that we've been able to achieve some savings throughout the budget and still prepare ourselves for the future. Due to the size of the transmission system over the next several years, we have about $333 million in the capital program over the next several years, and a lot of that we're trying to bring rates on gradually. So our rate management methodology, as you've seen the last couple of years, are smaller incremental adjustments are the most responsible way to manage utility and support our customers. And so these 5.75% increases on the base rate portion only is the way that we've determined to do that, with having as minimal of an impact as we can on the customer. You can see for next year, the October through May timeframe, the non-summer months, is an impact of about $1.86 for that average customer. And then the summer months would be about a $2.51 change. So if you blend that over the year, that's about $2.07 a month difference between this year and next year. The budget that we provided to you in May was preliminary, and we let y'all know that at that time. And there was a few charges in there that had not been provided to us yet from the city as they are completing and compiling all of those expenses. And so we've incorporated those changes in the budget that's before you today, and they were very minor. I think I've never seen it this close. Chad did an excellent job on estimating what those scheduled charges might be. And so overall, out of a $240 million budget, we had $13,000 of change. So I think that's pretty good. So you can see those lined out there related to some charges that we pay for services that are provided by some of the city departments. We had an increase in our radio shop charges for our radios, but a decrease from what we'd expected for our data processing charges, and then a little bit of an increase in our print shop estimates. So $13,000. And then what we've done is we have increased the utilization of our reserves. So instead of drawing down reserve $670,000, we'll draw down reserve $683,000. Still in the scope of things, that is very, very minor. That basically wraps up my overview of the budget. And if y'all have any questions at this time, myself, Chad, we're happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Andy, I appreciate your presentation, both in the last, the special meeting we had last week, for that, you and Chad. Again, thank you for your work on this. I really appreciate your thoroughness and your expertise and your dedication.
I don't want to forget Jurissa too. There's others in the, there's a lot of departments that, all the departments have to put a lot of work into this too, so it's not just Chad and myself. But
and I get to thank Jurissa for the statement of cash flow.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely, yes. I didn't mention that, I should have.
I told Chad I love the statement of cash flows.
We've begun putting that in there this month, and I didn't point that out, but I think it will help you if you enjoy that sort of thing.
You're showing your true colors.
I know,
Mr. Chairman, you're showing your true colors.
I can't help it.
I knew most of you didn't.
Well, I just want to publicly thank you for your all's hard work.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you and the
Thanks.
department. So, I entertain a motion on approving the budget.
Make a motion to approve the budget and forward it on, recommend it to the city council for approval.
Motion made by Mr. Bell, second by Mr. Tucker. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's 8-2. All right, thanks again, Andy. I guess are you going to address the tariff?
It's me again.
All right. Item 9, discuss and take action on fiscal year 2016-17 electric rate tariff schedule and make appropriate recommendations to the city council of the City of Lubbock pursuant to 2.03415A of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lubbock, Texas.
Okay. So before you again, we've given you a clean version of the tariff and then a red line version following that, so you can see all the changes that have occurred since the current tariff that's in place today. I'm just going to go over a few of the kind of major changes that are included in this tariff, and then I wanted to point out a few minor changes that have occurred this month over what we had before you last month, just so you are clear on what that is. Again, throughout the document, we've incorporated that 5.75% on those service availability and energy charges throughout the tariff, so that you'll see in red line. We've also, on the net metering, which is basically our customers who have distributed generation such as solar or wind on their side of the meter, we have required that they sign an interconnection agreement and that they be on the net metering rate. There's a little bit of it's not really clear on whether they had to be or not on that rate, but if they do have distributed generation, they need to be on that net metering rate. We have added commercial net metering in this tariff. There is a small commercial, which is rate 11, and there is a large commercial, which will be part of the existing rate 16. So that is included. One thing I want to point out is that the commercial customers that are on a net metering rate will not be eligible for the time of use rate, or will be eligible for any demand cap. Demand cap has been added since the last time y'all saw this tariff, so that's a change between last month and this month. The main reason for that is that our system will just not accommodate all of these different multiple rate offerings in one rate class, so we've made that change for now. One thing in blue there that has been added since last time, we did want to clarify what distributed installed generation was. And for residential customers, that is going to be solar technology, and for non-residential, that'll be solar or wind. We've also added a 6-month look back. This was in your original changes to the tariff, which will allow customers that 6-month historical period to go back if they have any inaccuracies that they need to point out that we can fix. That they have that time period, and that is consistent with the PUC, and that is also consistent with the water ordinances at the city on the water side of the house. And then the other big item is the demand cap. As you recall, we've been phasing out the demand cap that began last year. This will be the second year, and we will have one more year before that demand cap has been completely phased out. The phase out this year will ensure that no customer sees more than a 13% adjustment on the demand component of their bill. Last year, we had limited it to no more than 20%, so the next 2 years, we should be able to keep it at no more than 13%. And then that will be phased out. Again, the demand cap is not available for the commercial net metering customers, which has been added since y'all saw this last month. So those are the 4 big changes. I think that was it. Yeah, that was it. On the tariff, and if y'all have any questions, be happy to answer those at this point.
Questions?
Any other net metering, I think you told us last time there was only 5 residential customers and 0 commercial.
Yeah, I think we went back and looked for sure, and it's about 8 residential customers that are on that right now, and 0 because we haven't offered the commercial yet. So that is the number.
Tucker.
Talking about somebody who's deciding to do this on the call of business. If I read it right, if they install enough to zero themselves out, the only thing they have to pay is the extra fee. Cap industrial commercial 4 watts and residences at 10, and it doesn't define that, so that's basically it.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
So we net metering friendly?
I think what I would say is we are stepping our toe into renewable generation. This is a first step, and I think to go to a next level, you're going to have advanced meters. You're going to have a different system in place. We don't have the ability to go a whole lot further than we are today.
We also have a total requirements contract right now, so if we start buying back energy from our
That's true.
customers, we'd have to be careful that we don't tread on any contract provisions.
Thank you. Other questions concerning the tariff? Entertain a motion. Motion to approve the tariff by Mr. Rice, and is there a second? Second by Mr. Bowden. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that's a vote as well. So that would bring us then to item 10. Consider a resolution authorizing the designated representative of the city of Lubbock to provide any and all notices and to execute any and all documents necessary to place Unit 1 and Unit 2 located at LP&L's Cook Station in long-term cold storage as contemplated by Title 40, Chapter 75 of the Code of Federal Regulations. Code of Federal Regulations. Mr. Kasner, I'll let you address that if you would.
Mr. Chairman, I think we would like to call up Chris Sands, who is our Director of Regulatory Matters such as this, and he can respond to any questions you got.
Do we need to entertain a motion first? Your motion to approve the resolution. Moved by Mr. Isom, second by Mr. Henry. All those in favor of that, or we can just go to discussion. Okay, go ahead, Chris, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, members of the board and city council. Being happy to answer any questions. Many of the regulatory agencies that we deal with have very specific rules on who can represent a corporation in front of their agency. This particular request deals with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and it goes in line with our operations needs going forward with performing procedures. There is a designation by the city council for me to be able to act on their behalf. And this is just affirm our intention of placing one to any long-term cold storage. Would relieve a lot of our reporting requirements and allow us to not have someone in the whole time watching equipment that's really not needed.
Any other questions for Mr. Sims or Mr. Kasner regarding that?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not
Mr.
the
Kasner.
board and Mr. Sims can elaborate, but this designation will require that these units not run for a period of at least 2 years.
That dovetails with our existing plan.
Just curious, does that mean cold storage, that just means you're just stopping?
Yes.
You don't have to do anything to prepare that for storage or do anything? You just-
Operational wise, they have.
It doesn't go into a freezer. I got that.
There's lots of different terms. Every regulatory agency has a different term for what they're doing. You hear the terms a lot, but you used it earlier called mothballing.
Yeah.
This particular term is what the US EPA requires in order for us to basically not operate that transmission monitoring system that looks at all the fluids and samples.
I see.
So it allows us to basically plug it, tell them you won't be receiving reports, and we'll notify you once we start that.
But it will be maintained,
Yes.
returning and stuff like that.
Yes. Maintenance, and there's, with the current UCC over at Cook Station, facility, you can dispatch, if they're available, the 2 gas turbines that are there. So we have employees on site there.
Okay, any other comments, questions? All right. All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Once again, I believe that's 8-0. That'll bring us to item 11, consider a resolution pursuant to section 2.03415E of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lubbock, recommending to the City Council of the City of Lubbock one individual for appointment to the board of West Texas Municipal Power Agency to fill the unexpired term of Mayor Glenn Robertson. So this would be a resolution which is blank, I believe.
Yes, sir.
So we're basically looking for a nomination to fill that spot, one of our 2 seats on.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
traditionally, we've had the mayor serve with one of our board members, and currently our professional engineer, Don Bowman. Have you visited with the mayor?
I have not. I should have.
I talked to staff and told them I'd be pleased to
serve on that too.
Then I'll nominate Mayor Danforth.
Made and seconded. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Good work. That would bring us then to item 12, receive a report and discuss underground utility locations and relocation activities and electric customer connections related to downtown redevelopment activities. So this is just the receiving of a report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'll start this and let Mr. McGinnis finish. Just to remind everybody where we were, we have underground utility relocations occurring in downtown Lubbock, of which some of the existing businesses will require electrical work on the outside of the building, some will require electricity work on the inside of the building, and the issue has come up as far as whose cost burden would that be, and the limitations on the city of Lubbock as far as gifting property and various legal avenues to achieve that goal, as well as we've discussed the relative jurisdictions of this board and the city council. We were tasked to attempt to set up a meeting with the building code officials as well, to visit with them regarding any type of activity that might trigger grandfathering of bringing the building up to all codes. And Mr. McGinnis, Amy Sims in the city attorney's office set that meeting up, ran the meeting very well, had the appropriate people at the meeting, at which point, at least from a preliminary standpoint, the building codes folks did not feel like changing voltage or the work regarding just connecting for electricity infrastructure would be something that would trigger upgrade and the grandfather would remain intact. They didn't feel like there was any exceptions to that at that point in time. That was listed.
Other pieces of that presentation that need to go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask Mr. McGinnis to visit. After that meeting, we realized that we needed some type of quantification of what buildings would be what, as far as those that needed nothing to those that could be hooked up to outside weatherhead glasses to those buildings which would need changes inside the building from a voltage standpoint. I think Mr. McGinnis is probably going to visit about that.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, we really have not conducted a physical inspection. It would take a ground effort to do that. We don't have maps or indications electronically to do that. We would take the old system is a network system. We've got 3 different feeds off that network system. There's one other system that provides feed that is not part of the original system. So there's 4 different systems that we have to walk down. And we know where the primary is, but once it reaches the transformer and goes from the secondary to the building, that's what needs to be inspected or looked at and determine what numbers we have. I think we talked last time 12208, 12240. And 48336. So there's 5 different variations in there that we have to determine.
Mr. McGinnis, I guess the question that comes up from a public policy standpoint is these folks who are getting electricity through us now, if there's a change in their voltage or a change in the character the service we provide, if that causes them additional expenses, what is the responsibility of this board and this department of the city of Lubbock as far as addressing those? And I guess that's kind of why we've been kicking the subject around as far as knowing those costs. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I hear you saying is this is going to be a property by property issue of if there is a change in voltage or service that affects each property. Is that?
That is correct.
I'm not sure anybody else, Mr. Eisner.
How would you go about quantifying it?
We've done a rough estimate, I think that was presented a couple of months ago.
And just to refresh those that weren't here, how many, that was 5? How many properties did you guys look at?
There was probably 5 different scenarios. They estimated it across, they only did like a portion of the downtown area, and then they estimated the remainder of the area. So they probably took 1/7, 1/8 of the area, looked at a few of the applications, and then estimated across the entire downtown area.
So if we were looking to get something a little bit more accurate, what solution would you propose?
We would either need to dedicate personnel from LP&L or hire a third party to conduct that inspection.
How long do you, I know this is a very serious estimate, but how long would something like that take to happen? If we did it through LP&L?
It really would depend on, if we're coming into the summer months, we try to not do a lot of construction and things that happen during, that don't need to happen during the summer to keep our FTP high. During the winter months, when a lot of the maintenance takes place, we have 2 different departments, underground and overhead. It's primarily underground at this point.
Yeah, I would say just based on my knowledge of the workload that we have before us right now, we probably have to contract this out. I don't think we can get to it in any really timely manner by dedicating internal resources.
It would take much longer with LP&L personnel than it would contract.
Mr. Doug, how often would this situation occur? What circumstances would cause you to change the secondary loop?
The problem is we're going to from these network transformers right now, some of which are 120, 240 volt 3-phase transformers to pad mount transformers. Well, you can't get the delta transformer connections in a pad mount transformer. That's a non-standard setup. So it has to be, you either have to go to 120, 208 or 277, 480 to use a standard pad mounted transformer. So the way that you get around that without having to do a bunch of work inside is you put a dry type transformer inside the facility, which takes 1 voltage and converts it to what they've got there already. And those are relatively inexpensive, but there is a cost associated with dry type.
Talk about the enclosure.
Well, this would
I
be
just wondered how often this would happen.
Or do you even know? That's what we're trying to answer.
That's what the inspection is.
So David, I mean, between the 2 of you, are you suggesting that at the next meeting we're taking into consideration hiring a third party to inspect every property?
We'll do whatever the board would like us to do. I think that doesn't answer the question. Okay, once you get this answer, who's ultimately going to pay for the conversion? Is it going to be, we're going to set up a special fund to help with these conversion costs? Or are we going to?
But the problem with answering that is we don't know what we're, nobody's going to take that seriously until we define what this vehicle is.
Checking it into it.
But we get back to something that we talked about several months ago is, should we be the board or the department, as you so eloquently use? Should we be the statement of cash flows that this is coming out of? The inspection. I'm not talking about the bigger picture. We don't have this budgeted for.
I would say that, the systems that Mr. McGinnis has described to you, the three systems that serve the downtown area, are very old. They're becoming more and more unreliable, and it's in our long-term interest to get customers migrated to the new facilities that we've spent a lot of money to put in. The nice underground facilities are sitting there in some cases and not being utilized. So I think it's in all of our interest to find a way to make use of those systems and get folks cut over, whether we have to fund part of it or whether the TIF board funds some of it, or, I don't know what all the options are available. I think Mr. Cashner has some concerns about us providing funds for something that would be done on the customer side that wouldn't normally be done. That would be a gifting thing that would perhaps be constitutionally challenged.
Those are things that I hesitate to talk about here, we've listed on the floor.
Richard, do you have any concerns about us considering an inspection, not of LP&L?
It would be preferable if it came out of the city through some type of economic development vehicle or something of that nature.
Even the inspection of the property?
I think if the ultimate goal of the inspection is the ultimate expenditure of those funds, I think that would certainly be a prudent way to do it.
I can't get anywhere on this.
Mr. Bell?
I would receive, I'm struggling with is if we had a number, we spend some money, some unknown amount of money to get a number, what do we gain? I wouldn't be in favor of spending LP&L ratepayer money to find out what it may cost. Still makes sense to me.
If we're gonna go there, then, Mr. Bell, at the point in time where I'm not gonna be on this board, you're gonna be on this board probably when this comes up. All these people who are gonna get the bills for the reconnection expenses that we're trying to quantify at this point are going to be upset with this board first. So this board is just making an effort to try to quantify the problem, which may allow a solution to come forward. And I've brought this up now for months, and my point is that if it's an inspection that needs to happen to find out what we're talking about, I don't know that anybody else is actively discussing and trying to pursue a solution than this board.
But you'd be, so, let me be clear that you'd be in favor of us spending money to find out what the cost, what the estimate, so it would be a bid, it'd be estimated for each and every interconnection in downtown Lubbock, not knowing who may ultimately pay for it.
Knowing at this point, every downtown property owner in the city of Lubbock is facing a bill of an unknown amount at an unknown time, I think it's better for us to spend some money now, maybe with the caveat that the city, TIF, whoever, may reimburse us for the cost of this inspection. But it's better to spend some money now than let the issue become an issue that I think it will become when property owners get a bill with no forewarning and have no choice but to spend it.
But you understand it would be an estimate, it wouldn't be a bid.
No, it's an
The customer down the road might like, it could cost them twice, it could cost them half, we don't know. So we still got this big bill.
But we know there's an intent. We know there's an intent by the city or the TIF or various people or various organizations involved to try to find a solution. But nobody's coming to the table to really discuss that solution until we quantify the problem. So we can either do it or the council can do it. We can do it with the caveat that we may want to be reimbursed later on. But I don't know who else is going to do it.
Let me throw out an idea here, whatever man will do it. We can try to bring back a resolution to award consulting services to go out and do the inspection, the verification of the costs. And I'm not sure we can get it done by July because there's a process that you have to go through to hire an engineering firm if it's over a certain amount of money. It might be the next August meeting, but we can certainly get started on it. And then the board can see how much it's going to cost and make a decision at that point in time as to whether you want to go forward or whether you want to try to get the city to pay for it, some other entity.
I think that's a good proposal, because I think that Mr. Isom is correct. This is an issue regardless of whose garden it falls in, whether that's really in our bailiwick or not. somebody needs to start an analysis of that. And if we have a proposal with regards to that, I believe that's something that we should take up. If we get warned off that track between now and then, I'm happy to do that as well. I think it's just something that every business that resides in downtown is going to have to address this in some form or fashion, and we as a city need to do what we can do to promote downtown redevelopment, and this is just part of that. So I think that's a good proposal. Mr. Pope?
Mr. Chairman, I agree. I think Mr. Eisen and your comments are right on. I think we need to know how many of each type we have. We need then to try to determine a range of what we think we estimate each type would cost. I mean, we need to then try to solve the problem. But you know, we have a lot of downtown business owners who, take myself as an example, who felt like that when we invested in going underground with electricity, that the fee would. The cost would be probably some reconnect fee just to remove my underground service and remove my overhead service and connect with underground service. And we've got quite a story. We've got quite a bit to explain to many of those people.
That would be true in some cases, but not in every case. There would be more work required in some cases.
That's right. Yeah, so it's just, we've got work to do, and it's, I think it's a joint, it will eventually be bigger than just LP&L, but I do think Mr. Eisen's read is correct, that if this blows up, it's going to blow up on LP&L. It's electric related. So let's get ahead. I would hope we can get ahead of that.
All right. That was our report, Mr. Gibbs. Thank you very much. I think that was a healthy discussion. Appreciate the proposal. All right, that would bring us to the consent agenda, items 13 through 17. Mr. Kasner, remind me again, do I need to read each one of those, or should we just open that up? Short, so item 13 is execute an agreement with Parkhill, Smith & Cooper regarding boring and excavation design. Item 14 is the proposed contract with Black & Beach for our professional engineering substation design. Item 15 is related to more mooring services with Deerwood Construction and driver directional services. Item 16 is a contract, annual pricing contract for hydrogen cylinders. And item 17 relates to contract for transformers.